So I have more or less like a weekly something pretty similar to a breakdown because I'm trying to do so much and I'm still really struggling with my balance with work and kids.
The traveling village has been something we've looked forward to for a year, and for it to just start and then we're in it now, that feels weird.
And it's going so fast. Pre-teenagers, they run around the corners, they find like secret places and you can hear them, oh, the grown-ups are coming, shh, and stuff like that. For me, that's part of growing up. You have to push your boundaries and do stuff where you don't really know about is this safe or not.
So taking risks, but in a really safe space.
Yeah, I think so.
I felt like I had so much time to do things. And then all of a sudden, it's like the last couple of days, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things I haven't done yet.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Traveling Village podcast. My name is Asha. I'm one of the village members. I'm here with Nikolaj, who is a founding family, and with Kiran, who's one of the founding families also. So I wanted to start off today with highs and lows of this week, and then get into what's working, what's not working, and could this potentially be a permanent lifestyle for any of us? So do you want to start with your highs and lows?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, it's a high that we're now finishing Vietnam. Like it feels like a big step that we're 1/3 through. And after more than a year of planning and feeling kind of ready to move on. And it's fun to see all of the families now traveling in smaller groups, going to Thailand. And with lows, I think, I'm still really struggling with my balance with work and kids, community. So I have more or less like a weekly, not breakdown, but something pretty similar to a breakdown, like because I'm trying to do so much. And yeah, I'm still trying to find a good balance between those things. And it's a really good learning process, but it's just hard sometimes. So I think that's been my low point of the week, that I had a few days where I was just done.
Yeah, but you've taken a lot on yourself. And yet having this be the first location, having that complete, it's definitely high, but it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When we first conceived of the 3 locations, I really can't believe one is done. Like, we're not coming back to Vietnam with the traveling village. But we've made a lot of friends already. I think that's an important part of the trip. Right?
Okay. How about you? Highs and lows?
I'm going to start with lows this week, mainly because my knees are still hurting.
What happened?
What's funny is I was actually with Asha. Can I tell you the whole story?
Not the whole story. Right?
Okay. So, Asha, I think we ran into Asha and Kef on the street, and then I was with Sakshi, and then
Holding her.
I was holding Sakshi, and we were walking in opposite directions, but, Asha had a migraine, and I care about Asha finding some medication, so I graciously offered to take her into the pharmacy. And then what ended up happening, on the way to the pharmacy, I rolled my ankle, and I was holding Sakshi, so I couldn't brace myself with my arms. So I just took it on my knees.
Oh.
But not only that, you rolled your ankle into the street with oncoming traffic.
And the traffic here is...
Dude, I mean, the traffic here is not bad, but yeah, they kind of weave, they bob and weave. So it was pretty dangerous. In the end, I get to the pharmacy, Asha gets her medication. The pharmacist graciously offers a bunch of medication because she sees both my knees bleeding. What do I do?
Reject.
I reject.
As the man you are.
So I reject the medication, and then 3 days later, both my knees were lightly infected, so I had to go back. So it's been a weird medical thing to deal with in my last week at Vietnam, but that was the low, but I've really enjoyed. I actually think one of the highs is the fact that my body just took all that, and I kind of have the traveling village to thank, because we actually have one super member of the traveling village. She organizes workouts twice a week. And she really inspired me in the very first week to work out more. And so I've been exercising, doing my mobility drills. So my arm held up as I was holding socks. My ankle held up. And I've rolled that same ankle multiple times, and it's fine, knock on wood. So I'm really happy. I don't think I would be in such great shape were it not for the travel village.
You were inspired by her too, right? Didn't she give you a workout plan for yourself?
Yeah, it's because I'm running quite a lot, so I didn't really join her workout.
Okay.
But she's been forcing me to do some training too. And I feel like I really don't have more time for workouts, but she's forcing me.
Yeah, if she's up for it, we'll try and invite her on as a guest. I think that'll be like a special guest for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the high. No, that was the low.
Low and high.
Low and high.
Yeah.
Happy for my body.
Okay, got it.
Low because of my knees. And I feel stupid. How about you? Highs and lows.
Okay, well, I would say my son has daily meltdowns at least one a day. But there was one in particular. It was in the lobby of the hotel, epic meltdown. And I had just lost patience and I reacted to it. And I did not feel good about that, the way I reacted. And then it was a communal meal later that day. We almost didn't make it because of that. And I got there and someone asked me, "Oh, how are you doing?" Just nonchalant question. And I just burst out crying. But it actually felt so nice because she's like, "Don't worry." She's like, "I've been there too." And she has 2 small children. And I felt so like supported and cared about. And, and for the rest of that little communal meal, dinner or coffee break, she and her husband, took care of him. And I just got like a little break.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. And then my high, I would say my high was one of the families invited us over to their villa. You actually didn't make it, but I was able to hang out with Michelle, Nikolaj's wife, and their daughter. And that was really nice to be able to just connect on like, the older kids there kind of took care of the younger kids. I got some adult time and just getting to connect more one-on-one, which has been a little more difficult having a young little son here.
Yeah.
So
That's been one of my highlights too. I like hanging. I feel like we don't get enough adult time when you're just taking care of toddlers. And this has really flipped we've just been able to hang out a lot more. You, as some of the other people in the village as well. It's been great.
Okay, so now getting to the big question. Could you guys see this as a permanent lifestyle?
I think so. And that was kind of my dream, to design something, not to have the final solution right away, but to try to take some of the things that we're missing in our day-to-day life back home, especially the community part. Just like for backstory, we live in a really nice place in Denmark and we have really good neighbors and we have like a communal, like outdoor space with our neighbors. And it's like, I think it's around 100 apartments sharing like a big yard. And during the summers, it's like so great if the weather is good. Random dinners and barbecues and kids running around and stuff like that. But as soon as the weather changes, it just stops. And then you have to go to people's apartments. And a lot of those things, like you're familiar and you're kind of friends, but you're not that close. So during the winters, which is like 8 months of the year in Denmark, there's a lot of those things that we're missing. And
seeing you only need us during the winter?
Yeah,
Traveling village, like you.
We should just do this like 8 months a year. And then the last 4 we go home.
Go home, you Denmark.
I just think that community is something that's actually on a decline globally, especially in the western part of the world, but it's also coming to other parts of the world.
I think I feel the same way about Indian communities as well. In my experience, big families are kind of shrinking.
Yeah, you don't live with uncles and aunts and cousins as you used to do. And it's actually like, at least in Denmark, we think this is completely normal, but it's actually just the last maybe 50, 60 years or something like that. And loneliness is like a growing thing. And I think there's a lot of missing things there. So I really want to experiment more with that. There's so much research showing that community is important. And I really like, as a person, I like, the more random meetups and, instead of having the agreements 2 weeks out. I know I'm repeating myself now, but, that's what's so nice back home during the summers, that we just go down to the yard and then there's a lot of community. So I think that thing is really working out in this project, and with some adjustments, I think this could more or less be like a permanent way of living. And it could be permanent, like you're traveling the whole time with a big village, or it could be something you did on a yearly basis. You went on one of these trips. Then it would be more like a trip.
Your co-living arrangement is working out pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. Like we're living 7 families together, and we only have 1 room each, and then some communal space. But I think if it were to be more sustainable in the long term, you would look more on walkability. You would look more on, every family having a real house with their own kitchen, 2 bedrooms if you need that and stuff like that. Because it's fine for us now, but, it's the whole difference between now you're doing a trip. Right now, we're actually just doing a trip. But I think it could be super cool if it actually was like a permanent village. And then you would have to make some adjustments in how you're living. And right now here in Hoi An, we also have, I think, it's not a lot, but we still have too much logistics to get around and to meet up and to do all of the community stuff.
I do think that you guys thought of so many important details before it started. It didn't necessarily pan out that way, but I do think all the things were there in place. Having like the 1 mile radius and a few communal kind of places to be and to live. I know for me, I was in one of the apartments that's a little further away, and there was only 2 other families there, and there was no communal space there. So it made it really hard to meet up. And it also just takes a lot more effort for me to kind of meet other people. And so that's been a little more difficult for me because I feel like I haven't connected with as many people as I would have liked to so far.
Yeah.
And I also wonder, actually, someone mentioned this to me the other day, and I wonder almost because the next place we're going is pretty much everyone's in the same place. It's a beach place. There's not as much to do there. And it's really going to be very relaxing. So someone actually mentioned, what if you had swapped the 2, right? So you had the place where everyone is in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's really relaxing. There's not a lot to do. So you have to hang out. The next place there's more to do. And
If we had to replan it, I think I would have pushed to swap myself. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think that you're thinking so people would get to know each other more. That makes a lot of sense.
One of the tough parts with Hoi An is there's so much to do around. There's so many cultural activities. And we were there smack dab in the middle of Tet, which is the Lunar New Year. And so having that go on, I think actually added just more activities that didn't take time away, but it did make it a little more stressful than it needed to be for a lot of people. And to answer your earlier question, I do think there is this idea, we have the right bones, right? Like, I think it's really cool for, 20 families to go and travel. I do think we would probably need to design our locations far better, like Nikolaj was saying, and even the spaces. So the way this could work, what if we had, and this is years out in the future, decades, real estate around that are like community living areas that are maybe close enough to the city, but then it's enough space for 20 plus families to kind of just hang out, have communal spaces. And then I think the way it could work permanently is those families can travel from location to location and they'll just swap out. So, maybe I can stay in Hoi An for 6 months. And then when I want to go to Thailand, I contact a few families and try and do like a 3-way swap or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or maybe there's always like 5% excess capacity and then you can just go in. So I think that could be a cool way of doing it. But again, this is at the risk of, we've been at this for a month, right? 5 weeks now. So like, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves.
I think what's so good about the different locations right now is that they're actually very different from each other. So that's going to be a really good learning process, I think, to actually have you will get a real feeling of what works and what doesn't work. I think you can both live too close to each other and you can live too far from each other. Yeah. What kind of spaces do you need? And if you have your own communal space, will that, because people are drawn to different things. For example, here there's one place at the beach where people tended to go, and there's one cafe where people are working a lot. And, people also like organically find places like small hubs. So it's also nice to see those things happening. So like, to what degree do you design stuff?
Yeah.
And to which degree do you just let things develop organically? And that's why I think that the whole walkability is so important, that if we are just closer to each other, every family should have enough freedom to live the way they want. And I think in the perfect world, it would be more long-term sustainable lodging. Right now, I'm in just one room with my wife and 2 kids, and that's fine for a trip, but it's not sustainable in the long run.
But we're almost both too close and too far away in Hoi An. Like, verdict-wise.
Yeah. And then I think you should design it for people like you. You're with one kid and you're not driving around like one small kid. You're not driving around a scooter and, it should be so you can walk around in 10 minutes. But of course, many of these things sound great on paper, but it's really difficult to do in real life when you're just in a place for a short amount of time. If we were to invest a lot of money in one location, just stay here, it would be possible, of course, but it's more difficult. So I think that's probably some of the things I would do in the future when researching locations. Maybe a little less, I'm excited to go there, or it's like a tourist hub. You would look at, okay, from A to B, like how far would it be and stuff like that. Spend a little bit more time on that.
Another detail you had when you were designing this that I thought was brilliant is having a playroom, like a common room, and a workspace for people.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know how that's working, but I know you have that at your place.
Yeah, we have that at our space, which was, more or less pure luck, I think, because we actually had 10 rooms. So we were actually trying to get like 10 families to stay there.
That would have been a lot.
That would have been a lot, but we were just 8 and then one canceled, so we were 7. So we have some extra rooms. And that worked out brilliantly. But I think my original plan was to have some kind of, I called it like a community living room, our own community space where we would default to. So, for example, now at our co-living space, 2 times per week, there's some people arranging crafts for the kids, and they do it at our place. But instead, that should be in like a third place, a community place. And I think that will work out really well to meet up across families a bit more. But again, it's super difficult to do in real life. And I would also say that it actually worked out pretty well here in Hoi An. I know some families are living a bit further away. For some families, I think it's maybe even been too much with the co-living. But in the grand picture, I think it kind of worked out. People are coming to the communal meals. People don't feel like they're fed up. And what I've heard, people are, sad about leaving and really looking forward to meet again in a few days in Thailand. So
the gap is working to kind of build that feeling, right? Like, I think everyone has kind of come in for 5 weeks and we just met everyone quickly. And the next 5 days, which we've designated as travel days, are going to be good for people to just get a little bit of separation and just get re-energized to like socialize once more.
I don't know if people know about that. So we have 3 main countries and then there's 5 days between countries.
Yeah.
And that's to go wherever.
And people are taking like 5 to 8 days. Some people are taking a few days more to travel between. And it's super cool. Like you guys, you're doing a trip together, right?
Yeah.
And like there's smaller groups and then there's a big group going to Bangkok. And it's super cool to see. Hey, Casey.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I'm patting ourselves on the back for. Like, we were very deliberate about having gaps.
How did you think to do that? What was the reason for that?
I think we were very focused on budgets to not make it too difficult for people. We knew that we would have people with very different budgets, so we wanted to give them flexibility to, sometimes flight tickets are cheaper one day than another. But it was,
I was thinking about flexibility also, right? Like, not just budget flexibility, but like we wanted people to get their own places too. It's not like we designated an apartment building. We said, put everyone in like a 1 kilometer radius. We did the same thing for travel days. We didn't want people to be stressed out and feel like they have to get a plane on a certain day for a certain price. So just having that 5 days, I think everyone is kind of relaxed. They don't have to be there at a particular time. They can come earlier or leave later than if they want to. But
I also thought it was cool that before we even started the trip, there was this huge document called the One Document, and that has basically every single thing you could ever want to know about the traveling village.
Yeah.
And it included travel dates and where people are going to go in between. So like, for example, I was like, I don't know if I want to travel by myself to like some other country. How do I do this? And so I was able to look on there and be like, okay, cool. These people are going somewhere I want to go too. Yeah. And I was able to contact them and kind of work it out.
Yeah, we had small channels in Slack, our digital town square, where people were discussing these, like, I want to join this, like these 5 travel days, and they were planning it together. And I think, on the travel days, it's also like a small design thing that makes, the desire to make trips while we're in the locations in the 5 weeks a little bit, like people have less desire to actually do bigger trips while we are in those 5 weeks. Because I think if we were just going location, people would also, because a lot of people, it's like a once in a lifetime, they're 4 months in Asia. It's not something they're going to do next year. People want to see more stuff. So they would take like a week out of that. And then they would be missing at football. And we don't want to make rules that saying you can't do that. But we want to design it so it works out pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and you'll see that in the traveling village, I feel like that's been one of our main design principles is trying to provide just enough structure. Like we want things to form organically. And I think not having a central community living room in Vietnam worked out because like Nikolaj said, within the first few weeks, we kind of had cafes, play areas, other places in the city. Like we have a community tailor that I've met so many people with. And shout out to Sue in Loyan.
She's probably done about 100 garments for all of us.
I've literally run into other people at the village getting measured, and we've been talking.
I've got some twin shorts.
I've matching shorts with another friend in the village. So I think it's great. I think those things have to emerge organically. Maybe what we could do is provide the ability to make that more open. Like once we know everyone is hanging out at Bingo Delhi,
how do we tell everyone?
How do we tell everyone so that they just show up more?
Yeah.
Because we do have funds for a community location in Kyoto, but before going there, it feels almost like I kind of want a few cafes to pop up organically. And then could we pay them some money or figure out a way of having a space that people feel really comfortable dropping off their bags and like hanging out or watching the kids and just chilling with other parents. So I think we've made some real decisions. We've taken a more hands-off approach for the first location, and from Thailand onwards, it's going to be challenging to see how we incorporate all the feedback.
Nikolaj, do you feel stressed out about going to Thailand, or do you feel like, okay, we got a third of the way through the trip?
No, I think for me personally, because I've been stressed out here quite a lot, because I did spend a lot of time on the communal meals, and so somehow I just felt like a big responsibility to make that happen, and I felt it was important to get off a good start, and I have work and kids and all of those things. So I think that going to Thailand, and I'm really not a beach person, so I'm not really excited about spending 5 weeks, and I do a lot of running, and it's gonna be...
No, you saw him in the first beach. We had a beach day, and Nikolaj didn't go in the water, just outside. You're saying hi to everybody.
I was just looking for some mountains somewhere. That was nothing. But I think it's going to be more relaxed. I think it's been not hectic here, but there's been, it's been the start of the project, getting to know a lot of people, and there's so much to do here. And I feel, a little bit stressed out because I know that there's so many things we could do and stuff to see, trips to take. But I think in Koh Lanta, it's going to be so much more calm. So I think it will personally be good for me because I will get a good rhythm with work, and I will have, I don't feel I've had so much time to actually connect with people, to sit down, sometimes it's just 20, 30 minutes to talk a little bit, and I didn't have a lot of that. So I think just living close to other people and being at the beach, so there'll be a lot more of that. But I also think that after 3 weeks, I'm probably going to be a little bit done at the beach.
My visa didn't go through for Thailand.
Oh, really?
So I'm probably going to take a little trip, get a little beach.
Yeah, I'm probably going to
vacation away from the beach.
Just let me know when we're going. Can we go somewhere where there's mountains?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there, I forget what you said, is there a communal area in the city place in Thailand?
Not really. I think the original idea was that in Hoi An and Kyoto, we would all be living separately. And then it just happened that people were arranging co-living arrangements themselves. And then the idea was to try something completely else in Thailand and to book out like a whole resort and then do like a co-housing project, like a pop-up co-housing project. But it turned out like 13 families, I think, out of 19 families are living It's 15. Okay.
15.
Okay, so it's most.
Yeah, and I think we've booked out a lot of this hotel, this resort
Yeah, okay.
on the beach. They're gonna have communal spaces there that will feel very traveling village.
And it will be directly at the beach.
Yeah.
And so I think that will be our space there. But in Japan, we actually initially created a whole specific budget to actually rent out spaces. So we have
Like
6
weekly spaces or like
Like for the whole time, I think was
Really?
the idea was we have like maybe a place like this, but not at Kyoto. It'd be really hard, but it'd be beautiful if we just had even an outdoor play area with like a little cafe type space rented out.
Yeah, I think the idea was the whole community living room, a place to default to.
Yeah.
If you were just out walking with your kids, you would just pass by and you would go there to read a book or you would go there to work. But in reality, it's pretty difficult to find a place like that you can rent out. But we can't remember if it's $6,000 or $7,000 in the community budget to actually rent spaces. But it could also be, as you said, like make a deal with a cafe that, we can just come by and, we don't have to, like we have a corner or it could be like renting out spaces on a weekly basis. So people know Tuesdays there's like we rent out a gymnasium or something,
And then what do you think about the amount of time you're spending in each country? Like, how do you feel about this amount of time in Vietnam? Would you do it longer, the same, shorter?
I would do it longer.
It really depends. We're talking about doing it as a trip or as a permanent village, because I definitely think if it's like a permanent village, it's from now on, it's your lifestyle. This is how you're living. You would do longer, especially when you're traveling with kids. If you're a solo without kids, you're traveling, then maybe I know there's another project, Remote Year, that they do 12 months and it's 12 locations. And then you
Really hectic.
Wow.
And but I would probably do like 2, 3, even 4 months. But it really depends if you are doing permanently or not.
And even if I were to do the trip again, I think the first location, maybe I would keep a little bit longer and have the location be a little lower key, like the Koh Lanta location that we're hopefully getting. That once we get there shouldn't be a lot to do other than the resort. I just think one of the things that I felt in Vietnam is there's so much to do that we've had to split a lot of time, and we've basically prioritized community over the place.
Yeah.
So we were walking through Old Town the other day, and we still haven't been to like the old town. There's like a little older temple areas, the older docks, the trading docks. We haven't done that. Usually Nritya and I used to do, in a week, we would have 2 days to go out and explore. And the other days are kind of flex days just to like relax and do work because I'm working and there's just always stuff to do. But here we just haven't been able to do any of that. So I think work took a back seat and location specific exploration took a back seat to community living. And I think even in future trips, we should probably take that.
But that's funny because for me, it's a little bit different because we did a lot of 1 month trips and we always do 1 month and then we would try to work and we have the kids and we want to relax too. And we never get to see stuff. We never do trips. So you're just like 1 month and then when you're going to go home, it's like, what was the purpose of this trip? Because I'm just stressed out and, because you spend some resources on logistics, where to get food and stuff like that. But here, I think it was so cool that we were collectively finding places. So someone found a super cool place with electric cars for the kids. That was like a few kilometers out of town. And someone found a really good beach place. Someone arranged a trip. So there's been, like, we used much more of the town and the surrounding places than we would normally do in 1 month. So I feel like we really experienced Hoi An, and we really been here, especially compared to that. We also did a lot of work and with the kids and community. So I think it's been great. But probably when you're traveling, but you also probably in most locations had a little bit more time than 5 weeks, right?
No, about 4 weeks.
Okay.
I guess I'm specifically talking about like touristy things. There's attractions. There's temples to see. There's hikes to do or walking tours. And that was the only thing we used to do as like outings. Whereas here, there's lots of social outings, which is really cool. And like you said, we would go to like the electric cars. We would go and hang out in play areas. But we wouldn't do that much of that when we were traveling.
Yeah.
When we were solo traveling, even with a toddler. Like, we didn't seek out these spaces. But yeah,
I think there's a lot of
definitely
power in the
different vibe.
collective.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it felt like we had a lot of spots that, a lot of local folks would go to. You wouldn't see many tourists there because it's just, why would you go in your 1 week in Vietnam? Why would you go to a random electric car rental place? But it was super fun with like a group of kids. It was great.
I also felt like having like a month here or more, I felt like I had so much time to do things. And then all of a sudden, it's like the last couple of days, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things I haven't done yet.
But that's also because you know that there's so much to do. If you had just been here yourself, you would maybe feel like your catalog of things to do would maybe be smaller. But now my book of things to do is so big because you've been there, and you know, I heard so many stories that, so
that is what it is, actually. That our awareness has been expanded because we have so many people adding cool things to a list.
But the whole thing about how much time to spend in places, I think it could also be interesting that it doesn't have to be the same amount of time in each location, because it could vary depending on the type of location. So it could be longer if it's like a better setup for working and a more permanent lifestyle. But then you could maybe, instead of doing trips, you could maybe have 2 or 3 or like 3 weeks where you did a place, but it's maybe not, the perfect place for longer time and for working and stuff like that. But you will get an experience, but spending more time there would maybe be boring, or, that could be pretty fun too. We were a few people talking about you could do like easy, hard, easy. So you do something like going to Hoi An, then you do something extreme, something that's more hard.
North
Korea, easy. I know a guy. And then you do like easy again. And like stuff like that could be fun to work with. But I think for me, if I were to do the whole thing again, I would really think about with my life, what's the purpose? Like, what are we trying to achieve with a traveling village number 2? It's okay if we're just, saying we just want to go on a 4-month trip with some cool people, hang out. The kids have people to play with, kids to play with. That's fine. But I think it's important that it's like a conscious decision. What's the purpose of doing it? And I think one thing that I'm really keen on exploring more as someone aspiring to be like a homeschooling family is to learn more about free play for the kids, meaning that's the really difficult thing about the way we're living back in Denmark, and as most people are living nowadays, that as a homeschooler, we are with our kids the whole time, and they are never in a place where they can go explore themselves. They are under surveillance, more or less, the whole time. So how could we use this setup to actually create a more sustainable lifestyle in that direction? Because I think I would really prefer not to have my kids go to normal school, but I also know that they shouldn't just be in my house and they shouldn't just be with me. But it's not enough that they're just with other kids. They also need, especially as they're growing, they are, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they need to push their own boundaries, to go away, do something that's dangerous. And that's really difficult in our time for kids to do that, especially as a homeschooler. So I think that would probably be one thing that I would be really keen on exploring. One idea was to find a huge Italian farm that was really close to a village. They have like a lot of tourism, like where it's like a farm, but they also have like rooms where you can stay. Then stay there for 1 month, and you also had the village, like a real village, not a traveling village. So there would be some kind of places to go.
You're saying we're not a real village?
We're a real village. We are like the next level, the future of villages. But then you would have like, let's imagine like a huge like outdoor space. And a farm where a lot of things are going on, and there's animals and stuff like that.
And you're almost learning skills. The kids are learning skills.
It's possible to actually participate, to actually contribute on this farm. We are helping out somehow, but also just that it's like outside and it's, no traffic and the kids can run around.
You don't have to worry about the kids during the day. They're like helping around the farm.
And they're more
with other adults.
They're more free, but they know where the grown-ups are.
Yeah.
And it's so fun. For example, this location where we are right now, we have free communal meals here. And I think it's so amazing to see the bigger kids. My kids are small, but to see the pre-teenagers run around here. They run around the corners. They find like secret places and you can hear them, "Oh, the grown-ups are coming," shh, and stuff like that. And for me, that's part of growing up. You have to push your boundaries and do stuff where you don't really know about, is this safe or not, and stuff like that. But you have to have the space to actually do that. So I would be really keen on trying to at least have like one location where you explore this way of living.
So taking risks, but in a really safe space.
Yeah, and where the kids are more free. There's no like really visible boundaries to where they can go, and it's more outside and it's more free play. And we're here in Hoi An, it's amazing, but it's a lot of play centers. Now we're gonna go to this place. It's activities, and so we're I think it's difficult nowadays that kids are never bored, right? Because maybe they're watching TV too much, but it's also they need more space to like just do stuff.
One of the things I'm really looking forward to in the upcoming months is talking to more people about how they're schooling their children. That's really interesting to me because everyone is so different here and they have different philosophies. There was even this, I wasn't able to go, but the slow chat coffee, and they were going to talk about education. Yeah, which I missed. Unfortunately,
we all have younger kids, so ideally we should do a whole episode on this.
Yeah,
to see that as well, but like where we just talk about education because it's so important, and I think it's probably one of the keys to unlocking this as a permanent way of traveling or like just a permanent way of living. I just think the other part that's missing is all of this infrastructure should be there to make things easier. Whereas right now, because it's all so fresh, it's probably more work for us to do it this way with a group than it is if we had gone individually.
I think that's so important.
I agree.
Schooling, I would love, I have some ideas for what I would love to, organize and put together for probably the 8 to 14-year-olds. But the idea of having to organize like that many kids and like get all the people together, that is tough. So we need to build that infrastructure, build that muscle to like, hey, we all have skills as adults and all the kids bring a lot to the table as well. How much can we organize and create around them to make the act of learning, the act of play and free play specifically just come grassroots,
I think that's so important because right now a lot of the people who are working, they don't have enough space, time to actually work. So I think if it was supposed to be permanent, you would have to somehow design it so it's easier to work. But how do you find a balance between having more time to work, but not having an actual school where you drop off people? Because what I think is really unique about this project is that it actually, my feeling is at least that it's people who want to really spend more time with their kids. They want to be active. It's not people who just want to drop off their kids and then go surfing or do something for the grown-ups. So we need to find some kind of balance. So it shouldn't be like a traveling school, but it could be, again, if we had the community living room and we had, I'm thinking stuff like learning guides, some people who are on the trip to facilitate some of these things, but they're not like full-time teachers responsible for the education, but they're arranging something, in the mornings or something like that. I think that would be pretty important to make it more sustainable. If you were to like saying, how can we get people who are working, who are not like retired or have the financial means to just travel long-term, how can we get normal people to do this for more than 1 year? I think that would be super cool to explore.
Right. I mean, I would love that. That'd be really nice.
Yeah. But what about you? Because you're like solo mom with one small kid. Yeah. Like, what kind of adjustments with the experience you have now would be needed to make it maybe not 20-year permanent, but to make it more possible to do it in the long term?
Well, first of all, I think having Michelle's sister come to Thailand is going to be really helpful because I can kind of hire her to take care of my son a little bit. Because being around him 24 hours a day, I feel like my patience wanes a little bit.
You need some kind of break.
Yeah. And I need some adult time too. Because I feel like I'm just constantly around him, trying to take care of him, like almost in survival mode, you know? So I think that would change. I may almost wait till he's a little bit older. He's like almost 2. And I might almost do it when he's like 5, when he can kind of take care of a little bit of himself. I don't have to like kind of try to carry him everywhere. And, you know, I might try to wait till he's a little bit older.
Because some things are easier when they're super young. Like, you don't have to convince them to go anywhere. You can just kind of just go.
Yeah.
But you're hitting the 2-year where you don't really get the easy way and you don't get.
Yeah.
All the 2
Yeah, there's a middle zone.
That was probably a low yesterday. I was in Old Town trying to get home.
Just didn't want to go home.
He refused to get on my back and I was carrying him. And he refused. So we sat in one spot for an hour and a half while I waited for him to change his mind. I think I finally convinced him. I was like, let's go see Mutata. He calls Kiran Mutata. And so I was like,
because I sing him Hakuna Matata. The song, the Lion King song.
And then all of a sudden he was like really excited. So we finally got on a motorbike and went home.
But how has the communal meals been for you, or when you've been going on? I know you've been going on some trips, because I know Kiran and Ezra, and there's a few, and some of the bigger kids like
Noah,
like they take care of him.
Yeah. It's so nice to have big kids around. Number one, because he just like learns from everyone and really watches them. So that's cool. And really has been able to connect with them. And they're so helpful. Everyone's so helpful. They're always willing to kind of like, I mean, he carries him around. He like runs to both of you guys all the time. Loves Noah, loves Sakshi. I mean, so there's kids of all ages. So he can like play with Sakshi as like a person of his own age, but then have like older boys to look up to. The girls take care of him. So that's been so nice and fun to see.
But that's where I'm thinking, if small design changes could actually make that, because
right now we only have families, and we talked about this in the last episode too. If we had different age groups, different people at different stages of life, retirees, new college kids, just people, you want a real village, and I think it would make that easier for everyone.
But also because right now you get that help and the community at specific points, like when you're at communal meals, or if you decided to go on a trip. But if you were more around people, and I think we're staying in the same place in Thailand, that's going to be super, like your specific case is going to be super fun to follow in Thailand, to see if that changes, if you get more adult time, because we'll just be at the beach and there will be 10 people around just playing, and Kefi will just walk over and play with them, and you could actually get a coffee, and suddenly you have 20 minutes, and it's not a lot, but it's...
I think my experience would have been very different if I'd been staying in kind of co-housing.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Do you kind of wish you had been in co-housing based on what you've seen?
Yeah, I think I thought it, in a way. Yeah. I do like having my own space too. So it's kind of this, I don't know. Yeah. It's a little...
tricky here.
Yeah.
I think lodging is something, if we were just to repeat it and do a trip again like this, I would probably try to work on helping people with the lodging, especially because then you could probably nudge people a little bit more to actually live closer, like in a smaller circle. But also it actually seems like it's been a lot of work, and people, they find something and it looks good, but then it's, people think 15 minutes, that's not so long. But I think now the experience is that if you have to walk 15 minutes, it's actually a huge barrier for the random meetups.
Yeah. So today is our last day in Vietnam. Do you guys have any final thoughts about Vietnam being the first place? We've kind of already touched on this, or any final thoughts on just the country or the trip so far in general?
I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss it a lot. I'm going to miss the excitement of starting this new thing. So Traveling Village has been something we've looked forward to for a year, and for it to just start and then we're in it now, that feels weird.
Yeah.
Like when I think about it.
And it's going so fast.
It's going so fast. I can't believe we're done with the whole location.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss that anticipatory feeling.
It's been such a huge part of your lives for like over a year.
I mean, your life too.
My life too, but mine just... Yeah. Well, I guess so, but not so much. I mean,
no, but in the planning
and the plan stuff. Man, yeah. It has been. It's been a lot.
I'm looking forward to having we have 5 days in Bangkok where it's just just gonna relax a little bit, just be like family time. And it's gonna be fun to see. In a few days, I think we'll start thinking about what did we miss and what are we looking forward to. And I think we're gonna be really excited about meeting up again in Thailand. So, but I actually think this location worked out really well. Lots of things you could change as we discussed, but we've been so lucky with many things, the location, some of the meals, the people we met.
Meals worked out, even though it was stressful.
More or less.
It
Yeah,
all pretty much worked.
I wouldn't say perfect, but
Listen, I'm in the communal meals
good luck.
for Thailand.
Good luck. Enjoy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, but I'm with Michelle, so I've got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's already kind of taken a few things. She's taken charge.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help as best I can. But I'm not as worried about Thailand as I am for Kyoto.
Yeah, and I'm in Kyoto again, and I'm actually really excited about it because I think it's a super fun challenge, but also arranging stuff like this is actually a good way to learn about a place. I love working with local people and arranging stuff. So I love Japan, so that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, bittersweet. How about you? What about closing thoughts, Vietnam?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a great location. I think there was stuff for adults, teenagers, little kids. I think it had something for everyone.
This is my first time in Vietnam.
Me too.
No, I've been here before. Now.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I only recommended this place.
Yeah.
Right?
And the funny thing is, I recommended Koh Lanta, but I don't like beaches.
He was like, there's this great co-working spot in Koh Lanta. Let's go. And then he turns out to be the guy who doesn't like beaches. Nikolaj, the enigma of Nikolaj.
Oh my gosh. All right, we're going to wrap up. But if you're interested in following us, it's traveling_village on Instagram. If you have any questions, comments, make sure to let us know there. And we will talk to you again in Thailand.
New location. Sign up for our newsletter.
Please do.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.